Góðan daginn allir, velkomin á þennan fund. Þetta verður svona aðeins með öðru sniði. Hann ekki með glærur, heldur hann verður bara með demo. Og þetta verður svona meira interaktiv, þannig að þið getið spurt hann ef að hafið einhverjar spurningar. Og hann á svolítið erfitt með nöfn, þannig að það ágætt að bara segja að ég heiti Grimmur eða eitthvað og hann reynir þá sitt besta. So welcome Ronald to this session, user group in Iceland. We are very happy to have you here to demo us DevOps. We are very interested in this product and hope you can guide us a little bit through this. I was telling people that you were going to have more of a demo than presentation, so yeah. That would be very interesting to see. So I'll just give you the word and
sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So hello everyone, and thank you all for hosting me. My name is Ronald Mariah. I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP from South Africa. Been awarded MVP since 2020, and I'm a public speaker as well as a DevOps technical lead at a company called Bet Software, which builds software for the betting industry. So we have millions of transactions per minute. Yeah, so that kind of scale that we have. Part of my role here involves automating as much as possible and getting us to a point where we deploy our services within containers and Kubernetes, taking advantage of technologies like OpenShift. Yeah. So for today, I'm going to just give a brief introduction about DevOps and how that fits into the software space, as well as it's a more of a demo kind of talk. And if I do have any questions, you can feel free to ask at any time. Just come on mute and you can ask questions. So I'll share my screen and we can get started with the demo. And check that out. So a part of what DevOps is automating the software delivery aspect of products. So traditionally, you'll have developers building software, and you'll have a DevOps team which takes that software and deploys it somewhere. But in today's world, developers are doing the DevOps aspect as well. They are containerizing their applications. They are doing deployments as well. And a lot of the deployments historically has been like to servers somewhere in your organization or to the cloud. So in Azure DevOps, we have the concept of repositories, which houses our code for a web application. It's built in Angular, so there's nothing too complicated about it. But what I want to do first is, how does that code look like from a local machine? If you open this project in VS Code, we can build it and run it locally, and we'll see what steps do we need to take to get this deployed or built and running. And then we'll look a little later on into how that deployment works, because a lot of the commands that we run locally, we'll have to automate it within Azure DevOps pipelines. So I'm just gonna close that. And So if you are familiar with Angular projects, you will know that there is this file called package.json, and it lists a few commands that we can use to build our application, test it, and start it up. So we can do that as well on the command line. So we can do npm install, which will install the packages needed for our application. And this takes a few seconds, hopefully not too long. But npm install will go through this package.json file and pull up all the dependencies and download them. When we get to the Azure DevOps aspect, we'll see that these same commands we'll use in our pipelines.
One question relating to the pipelines. You
Yes.
maybe go through that later on. Can you actually use different scripting tools to deploy the pipelines?
Yes. So there's a lot of built-in tasks that we can utilize. So we can run PowerShell scripts. We can run Azure Cli commands. And we'll see the list of the various other tasks as well. So even if you're deploying to on-premise environments, you have tasks for stopping IIS, replacing the files within the servers, starting up IIS again. Yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility within Azure DevOps to run whatever you want. So once npm is installed, we can run npm run and specify the command that we want to run. For example, there's a npm run build, which will, if you look at the directory, you'll notice that there will be a dist folder created in the project as well. So npm install will install node modules, and npm run build will build the project and output a distribution folder. That distribution folder can be deployed wherever we want. And we see that distribution folder got created. Then finally, we can run npm run start, which will start our application up, and we can access it locally on localhost, and we'll have a link to viewing that application. And we have that link here, localhost port 4200. And that's opening my Chrome. And we see that, well, this is a very basic application, but we have a responsive Angular app running. So just to recap, we ran npm install, npm run build, and we have that distribution folder which we can deploy somewhere. So before we get to Azure DevOps, I'm just going to go to the Azure Portal because we will be deploying this to a live environment that anyone around the world can access. And instead of deploying static websites to servers, I'm instead going to deploy it just to a storage account, which is also highly available and accessible by end users. So for this, we'll just need a resource group, which I will create a new one called, I'll just say Iceland. And give it a storage account name, which is Iceland web app. Hopefully it's storage account names don't need to have dashes. And I'm going to deploy this to South Africa North. And we can keep all the other defaults. Just running final validation, and we will create that. And deploying storage accounts shouldn't take long as well, up to 30 seconds, I guess.
Would it be possible to create an ARM template that deploys this automatically, like when you create an npm installer and run the commands as you were in the package.json?
So you want to create the storage account dynamically using ARM templates?
Yeah, so you just type in npm install Azure, and then it will automatically log into Azure and create everything.
So for storage accounts, we don't use the npm CLI, but what we can do is use the Azure CLI instead. So we can have something like AZ storage, and we can find the list of commands there. So it requires the storage account, and we can find out what options we have on AZ storage account, and we should have a list create as well. And it'll ask me for a few parameters as well, like the name of the storage account. And for example, AZ storage account create, you pass in the name of the storage account, the resource group. So you can do all of this through a command line, which you can automate within Azure pipelines as well. So you can have a test for, does the storage account exist? And if not, create it for yourself. It's especially useful for staging environments or any other test environments. Instead of deploying to production, if you create a branch from your repository, you can deploy an environment, test your changes, and then deploy to other live environments.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If we could do a automatic command while deploying the website itself, and it will basically create the environment for you and then deploy it even with the CI/CD and everything. That would be something that would be really cool to do.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So in our storage account, we have an option for static websites, which we will need to enable. And what this allows us to do is that host our content directly from Azure Storage and have it accessible to everyone around the world. But in production, we will instead put a CDN on top of the storage account so that users don't access the storage account directly, because people from the United States accessing a storage account in South Africa will experience latency. So adding a CDN on top of this URL will ensure that users around the world have the same experience when accessing our website. So if we go to this URL now, we shouldn't see anything. That's because there's no content yet in the storage account, which we will replace when we deploy this application. So now we can get to see what Azure pipelines can do for us. And as soon as we view our repo, we already have a button for creating a build. And Azure DevOps will inspect your repository and base some suggestions on some quick start templates that you can use. And you can use a Node.js application template, because this is a Node.js application. But we will instead start with a minimal pipeline so that we can see what exactly are the steps that we can use, and we can script everything ourselves instead of starting with something that's already nearly complete. So in a template, it first starts off with a trigger. This trigger is based on the branch that we want to trigger off.